Hello, welcome to this week's Level 1 class. We're going to work on the glutes a little bit more than last week. We're going to make it a little bit harder, so it's glute focus class again. What you need for this class is, if you have a foam roller, that would be great. If you don't have a foam roller, plastic bottle of water, of Coke, any fizzy drink, anything like that, better if it's fizzy because it'll actually make it a little bit harder. But if you have any plastic bottle, you can use that instead. If you have a little bit of pipe, you can use that instead. Plumbing pipe, something thick. And then if you don't have that, even something like a soccer ball will do, will be perfect. So we're going to use this today to try to make things a little bit harder for the glutes. So we're going to come on to the hands and knees. We're going to warm up the hips, loosen up the hips for internal external rotation and a little bit of flexion, and then we're going to start to work into the strength. So come on to the hands and knees. So hands below the shoulders, knees below the hips, tuck the elbows in. We're not going to work on the lateral flexion of the spine today. We're going to solely work on the hip rotation. So pick the left foot up, twist the foot out to the side as far as you can, back in, right foot up and out as far as you can, left foot up and out, back in, right foot up and out. As you're looking down, without turning the head, bring the foot out as wide as you can so you can just see your toes in your peripheral vision, out as far as you can, back in, right, left, so you just really pushing to the very end to twist the heel out as wide as you can, pointing the knee in across the body, and the last one on the right, and then back to the middle. Perfect. We're going to work on an external rotation, so slightly different stretch. We're going to bring the knee between the hands. If you have the heel down low, you're going to stretch the glutes. If we can get the heel up nice and high, and you can use your hand to pull up, you can go higher than that, even better. I'm a little stiff. You stretch the left leg back, and you just drop your hips down towards the mat. Try and bring the left hip and shoulder down towards the mat. So don't just drift off to the right. Keep the chest dropping down. And if you see the heel here slipping down, you can bring it up a little bit higher and then come back in. And you're working a lot of external rotation there. Good. And think about sitting the hips back onto the mat. So don't come forward with the body to here. We get the glutes. You want to think about sitting back onto the mat, bringing the left foot off the end of the mat and keeping that foot up nice and high, and we'll work on our external rotation. Perfect. Bring the right foot back down, left leg comes underneath the body this time. We bring the left foot up nice and high with the right hand, hands onto the mat, and drop the hips down. So this time we get a good stretch deep into the hip rotators here, into the external rotation hip muscles. If you find that left foot slipping down, use the right hand to pull it up a little bit higher and try and sit the hips back into the mat. So think of the hips dropping back this direction, not bringing your body forward in the opposite direction. Keep that foot up nice and high, use the right hand to bring the foot up, and then bring your right hip down towards the mat. So try to twist your right hip down, getting a nice good stretch into the back of the left hip. Perfect. And then bring the foot back. Good. Next what we're going to do, we're going to work on a hip flexion. So bring the hips and the knees straight up towards the pelvis. We're going to do one hip at a time. If you come down to the two, your body weight is spread between the two of them. What you want to do is keep the knees in nice and close. So come forward on the mat, bring the knees in together like that. You're going to slide the left foot back. You're going to drop your weight down onto your right knee. As you look down, you shouldn't be able to see your right heel. So you want to keep the shin parallel to the midline of the mat and just drop our body weight into it. So we're getting a stretch into the hip here. It's not a big stretch, we're just making sure you have full movement into it. And what we're doing is make sure we keep that internal rotation at a nice amount. It's actually a neutral position. What we want to do is try and encourage some internal rotation to bring it back towards neutral and make sure the knee doesn't fling out or twist out to the right side. And then come back to the middle, two knees and ankles together, like that again. Again, hands down onto the mat, slide the right leg all the way back, and just sit the body down onto that left hip. Just hold that position, look down, you shouldn't see your ankle or your toes. If you do, twist them out towards the outside, out to the left. And then just hold that position there. So we're working on internal rotation, making sure that when you bring your knee in towards your chest, you keep it into a neutral position. So knee and chin is coming straight up and down like a piston, as you flex and extend the hip and not twisting out to the side, wasting energy. Perfect. And then we're going to come back to the middle. Good. And then we're going to turn over onto our backs. So make yourself comfortable on the mat. Rest the head onto a block here. And then first exercise we're going to do, imprint the spine and just get ourselves into some good movement patterns. Roll the pelvis back down, imprint again, lift the hips up and back down. So we're exaggerating our movements here. We come down, arch the spine, come out of that imprint, rib cage down, imprint the spine, scoop the hips, rolling the hips, lift the hips up and then back down. Two more, imprint, lift the hips and lower down. Relax the shoulders, relax the arms. Last one, imprint, lift the hips up and then lower back down and rest down. If you have your foam roller, bottle, bit of plumbing pipe, grab it now. We're going to drop it down between the legs and 2 feet up onto the roller. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. You can still do this exercise without it. If you have a soccer ball, it's going to be harder. If you don't have a roller and your feet on the mat, it's going to be a little bit easier. What we're going to do is have the hands by the side. And we're going to try and bring a little bit of balance into it today. So we're going to imprint the spine, lift the hips up nice and high, and then back down. As you come up and as you come down, each vertebrae lifts up one after the other. And as you come back down, they come down one after the other. So we try to curl the spine, get that all those articulations working as much as you can. And at the top of the bridge, we want a straight line from the knees to the shoulders, going straight through the hip joint. You want to keep the tummy as flat as you can. So pull the rib cage down, twist the hips back by engaging the core here, and then back down. Good. Relax the shoulders the whole time. Back down. What you notice is with your feet on the roller or on a ball if you're making it harder, there'll be a little bit of a shake side to side. So we're bringing the lateral glute muscles out here and the medial hip muscles as well. And they're creating a little bit of stability. And the core is working as well. Because we have the hands by the side, it's not working that hard. We're going to make that a little bit harder. Hands onto the ribs, you get a bit more awareness of what's happening at the rib cage now. So if at the top you're cheating a little bit and using your back muscles, you find your ribs start to push up at the top. You'll feel it a lot more obvious with the hands. So imprint the spine, breathe out, pull the rib cage down, roll the hips back, lift the hips up, and then lower down. So you want to keep those rib cage, those ribs down and in nice and tight. Imagine the corset around the body, and it's pulled really, really tight. We don't want the ribs flaring out. 3, good. Roll the hips back, lift the hips up. 4, and then back down. Good, nice smooth movements. We're going for 10, so we're halfway there. Back down, shoulders are relaxed. They should be dropping back into the mat. Back down, and the chin should be relaxed. Tucked in, but not creating any tension. Not trying to lift the head up. Back down. 3 more, keep the roller in nice and close to the hips. Lower back down. The more you do that, the less work there'll be in the hamstrings, and the more there'll be on the glutes. Back down. One last one, roll the hips back, pull the rib cage down, lift the pelvis up nice and high, and then back down onto the mat, and rest down. Good. Next, we're going to make it a little bit harder, challenge the balance a little bit more, pull the roller in nice and close to the hips, have the heels as close to the hips as you can, hands across the chest, so take away any benefit of the upper body, and now all the work has to be controlled, or all the balance is controlled through the core, lateral hip muscles, medial hip muscles. So nice smooth movements. As you roll the pelvis back, imprint the spine, lift the hips up nice and high. It's the exact same movement we've done for the last 3 or 4 sets of exercises. We're just gradually making the balance a little bit harder each time. Roll back down, remember 1 vertebrae after the next as you come down, and then peeling the mat back up off the mat, 1 vertebrae at a time as well. As you go through this, you're going to feel the hamstrings working a little bit more. Hold the ribs down, lift the hips, lower back down. They're going to kick in as the glutes get a little bit tired. You're going to start to feel some tension in there. The glutes are also working more and more and more as we take the hands away. So the hamstrings are trying to help out. Good. Back down. One last one. Nice smooth moves as you lift the hips up, nice and high. Push the pelvis up at the end. And then controlled, rolling back down onto the mat. Perfect. Next one, left foot onto the roller. We're going to bring the right knee into the chest, hands by the side. We're going to lift the hips up and lower down. 1, 2, some nice smooth moves again. 3, this right knee should come in an arc towards your head. 4, 5, 6, keep the rib cage down. 7, full hip extension at the end. 8, 9, one last one, keep the ribs down, roll the pelvis back. 10. Perfect. Have a little rest. Switch feet. Bring the roller in nice and close. Again, we're going to keep the hands by the side. The next, we're going to take the hands away. So dig the right foot into the roller, lift the hips up, full extension at the end, back down. Because your foot is up on a roller, it'll be up a little bit higher. So what will happen is you're going to feel more weight going onto your shoulders. You're going to feel that there's more weight going to the back of your neck as well. It's going to feel it's compressed a little bit more, but it's okay. 3, remember this knee comes at an arc overhead. 4, what I don't want to see is that left knee reaching up to the ceiling like this, because it means you're arching your back. Good. 6, 4 more. 7, full extension at the end on that right side. 8, last 2, keep the ribs down. 9, and last one, full extension, pull the ribs down, make sure the ribs don't pop up at the end, and then back down. Perfect. Little rest for a second. We need the hamstrings to rest. They're probably going to kick in and fire up a little bit more now. We want to get as much work onto the glutes as we can. To do that, we're going to bring the hands across the chest for the next one. So if you have a ball, it's a little bit more unstable. Have your hands on your ribs, dig the elbows into the mat. If you're on the roller, hands across the chest. If you're on just the floor, hands across the chest as well. So left foot onto the roller, hands across the chest, right knee up, lift the hips and lower back down. Good. 1, 2, nice smooth moves. As you do this, resist the temptation to let the body weave side to side. 3, keep pulling the ribs down. 4, good, shoulders back. 5, 6, 7, good, last 3, 8, last 2, 9, last one, full hip extension at the end, pull the ribs down. 10, and back down. Good. Roll the roller to the right, make sure it's straightened up, right foot on the roller, heel in as close to the hip as you can, hands across the chest, and lift. Left knee comes up overhead. 2, good, in that arc. 3, relax the shoulders. 4, as you pull the shoulders down, you're going to use them for balance. They're going to dig into the mat and create some balance, but your core is working really hard as well to make sure you don't weave too much. 7, last 3, pull the ribs down. 8, 9, back down. One last one, up nice and high. 10, back down onto the mat, and give the legs a little bit of a rest. One last one we're going to do. So the last one isn't about hamstring, or sorry, isn't about glute strength. What we're going to do is we're going to lift the hips up nice and high into our single leg bridge. We're going to have one foot on the roller. We're going to extend the opposite leg. We're going to slide the leg in and out to the side. When we bring the leg to the side, our centre of gravity shifts out towards that side, and we have to compensate with the other leg. We need to keep that centre of gravity in line with the roller, otherwise we'll fall off it. So what we need to do is we have to shift that centre of gravity as we move our leg in and out. So it's creating kind of reactions and then basically predicting what's going to happen. So it's teaching your body to basically react before the leg moves, to shift the weight, rather than as the leg moves you start to fall and then you react. So we're trying to basically prep the body beforehand. Left foot onto the roller, Hands by the side for the first 1 or 2. Extend the right leg, hips nice and high. Keep the thighs in line with each other, right foot pointing to the ceiling. Slide the right leg out, back in. 2, 3, hands on the ribs if you can. 4, 5, hips nice and high. 6, left hand across the chest. 7, toes pointing to the ceiling, hips up. 8, right hand across. 9, and one last one. Extend the left hip. 10, bend the right knee, roll the hips down, and rest down. So, what you notice when you do that is as you slide the leg out to the side, you start taking that right hand into the mat, and then bit by bit as you take away, your body adjusts a lot better. That's if you didn't fall off the roller. Right foot onto the roller this time. Hands by the side again. Don't have them out too wide. Try and have them in narrow. They won't be on your yoga mat. They'll be slight to the side or your Pilates mat. They'll be slightly to the side. So right foot on the roller. Extend the left leg. Lift the hips nice and high. Foot extension to the right pelvis. Slide the left leg out. And in. 1. Toes pointing up. 2. 3. 2 hands onto the ribs. 4. 5. 6, bring the right hand across the chest if you've got the left leg straight. 7, push that right hip to the ceiling. 8, left hand across the chest. 9, one last one, shoulders back. 10, bend the left knee, roll the hips down, and have a little rest again. Perfect. One last one we're going to do when we're here. We're going to bring the left foot onto the roller. What we're going to do is work in the inner range of our glutes fibers. So where all the fibers, within the fibers there's 2 filaments called actin and myosin, and the 2 actin kind of layers, myosin's in the middle, 2 actin layers crawl towards each other and they overlap at the very end. What we're trying to do is work where they're really overlapped, build as much strength in that range as possible. Left foot onto the roller, right knee to the chest. This time 2 hands around the knee, hug it in as tight as you can. Lift the left foot, with the left foot, lift the hips and lower. 2, 3, 4, 5, good. 6, 7, full hip extension at the end. 8, good. Last 2, 9, one last one. 10, and rest the hips down. Bring the roller to the right foot on the roller, left knee all the way into the chest. Get the right foot nice in the middle, get your body nice and steady. Dig the left heel into the mat, lift the leg, and lower. 1, 2, have your right foot parallel with the roller, so don't twist it out to the side. If you put a little twist in the foot, it gives you a little bit better balance, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for your body to react to the hard work, make itself stronger, and get used to kind of balancing when it's in a nice position. If you turn the foot out, you create a lot of problems for the ankles, the knees, the hips as we start to walk. Left knee to the chest, lift and lower. You won't go as high with these lifts. Lift and lower, right in nice and close to the hips. Back down. One last one. Hips up nice and high, foot extension at the end, and lower back down. Perfect. So, grab the roller. We're going to leave it down to the side now. Perfect. We're going to turn onto our side. So, line the back up with the back of the mat. We're going to work our inner range of the glutes muscles. So it's very similar to the express class we've done this week. We're just adding in a few extra bits. So, back line to the back of the mat. Hips sweep forward to the front of the mat. Left hand onto the top of the hip. We're going to push that left heel away, or the top heel away from the body as far as you can. We're going to lift the foot up, not one foot, but as high up into the air as you can. So as you look down your leg, look and see what your foot is in line with. Is it in line with a picture on the wall? Is it in line with the door handle? What is it in line with? And that's where you want to keep it up there. So you want to have little pulses at the top. 1, 2. Toes should point straight forward. 3. As you lift foot up, don't turn the foot to the ceiling. We're using our hip flexors when we do that, rectus femoris. And in the soles, we want to keep the toes straight forward. So we're working our glutes and our TFL evenly. Good. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Bring the foot all the way back down. So again, all the time we're pushing that heel away so our pelvis doesn't tilt and the top part of the pelvis doesn't reach up towards the shoulders. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw circles up nice and high this time, clockwise and anti-clockwise. We want to smooth circles, both directions, and we want to keep those circles as high as we did those pulses. So as you do the circles, make sure they don't start drifting down towards the lower part, towards the mat. Keep them up nice and high and that pelvis still. So hand onto the pelvis, push the left heel away, toes pointing forward, lift the foot up nice and high, and circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Change directions. 10. Make sure the hip doesn't go backwards and forwards. 8, 7, 6. Nice smooth circles. 5. Toes pointing forward. 3, skipping numbers. 2. Make sure the foot is up as high as it was for the pulses. And then bring the foot down onto the mat. Perfect. Switch to the opposite side. So we're going to do the same for the right leg. Back line up at the back of the mat. Hips sweeping forward to the front. Rest the head down. Hand onto the top of the pelvis. Onto the little bony piece at the front here at the top of the thigh. Make sure that doesn't move. Have the thumb around the back like on a little teapot. Hand there. Keep the pelvis still. Push the right heel away from the body. Toes pointing forward. Lift the foot up nice and high. So this time, whether it's in line with the windowsill, again the door handle, the top of the roller, find something that you can focus on keeping the movements consistent. 4, just small movements. 5, you're only moving the hips up and down 6 inches or so. 8, make sure the right pelvis is directly below the left. Make sure you're not starting to drift the hips back. 1 last one. 10, and rest down. If the pelvis starts to roll back, you're going to use your quad muscles on the front, your rectus femoris iliopsoas. If you keep the pelvis directly on top, you're going to share it between your TFL, your glutes. And if you let the pelvis come forward, you're really going to work your glutes even more. Or if you turn your toes down, you're going to put more emphasis onto your glutes. So toes to the front of the mat again. Hand onto the top of the pelvis. Little circles, 10 each direction. So bring the foot up as high as you can. Push the right heel away. Somewhere near the top of that roller. 1, 2, 3. Keep the heel up. 4, 5. So you can see my circles are just at the top of the roller. 6, 7. That's where we want them all. 8, 9. Keep the pelvis still. 10. Change directions. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Keep the pelvis level. 5. Directly over. Right, directly over the left. Last 2. Keep the heel up to the top of the roller. 1, and rest the leg down onto the mat. Perfect. Next, we're going to do a little bit for the side plank. So what we're going to do, we're going to come up from the knees. You're going to bend your knees. Have the elbow directly below the shoulder, but slightly down towards the hips as always. Hips are straight, knees are bent. Push the pelvis forward, so we've got a straight line. We're going to lift the rib cage up, so the spine of the torso is straight. Pinch the shoulder blades back. We're going to lift the pelvis and lower. We're going to go for 15. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Keep pinching the shoulders back. 8, halfway there, over halfway. 9, this is a very small win there and over halfway, isn't it? 10, good. 5 more. 4, 3, 2, last one, hold for 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, nice straight body. 7, 6, shoulder blades back, chest forward. 2, 1, and then rest back down. Good. We're going to straighten the top leg down onto the mat. This time we're going to do some lifts with the top leg. So we're going to have the elbow directly below the shoulder again. Extend that lower hip. We don't have the knee starting in front. We want a nice straight line through that lower thigh into the hip, straight up along the body. Tuck the pelvis forward, pinch the shoulder blades back, lift the rib cage up, so straight spine to start. Lifting the hips up and holding there. I'm going to bring this elbow down a bit. Lift the hips up and holding there. And then top leg up and down for 10. 1, 2, pinch the shoulders. 3, chest forward. 4, pull the ribs down. 5, 6, right toes pointing forward. 7, 8, 9, 10. Rest the leg, rest the hips, and rest the shoulder. Perfect. Switch over to the other side again. So, back to the original side. Again, elbow below the shoulder, knees are bent, hips are forward. We're going to go for 15 lifts. Right, left hand onto the top of the pelvis. Again, straight hips there. Try and pull the ribs down, imprint the spine, shoulder blades back. Rib cage up nice and high, straight spine. Lift and lower. 1, 2, right hand down the mat. 3, 4, 5, shoulders back. 6, chin tucked in. 7, pinch the shoulders back and down. 8, so pull the shoulder blades back down towards the feet. 9, 10, 5 more. 4, 3, good. 2, and last one. Hold for 15 seconds. So remember, ribs are up nice and high, shoulders are pinched back. Keep the chin tucked in so we take as much tension out of the neck as we can. Keep the pelvis up as high as you can. Chest forward, but rib cage pulled down. 1 more second. And then rest the hips down. Good. We're going to extend that top leg. So, elbow directly below the shoulder. Pinch the shoulder blades back. We're going to lift the hips up nice and high. Hold the hips there. Left toes pointing straight forward. 10 lifts. Have that elbow directly below the shoulder at the top of that side bridge. 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure you're not leaning back. 6. So chest is straight forward and the hips are straight forward. If anything, think about turning them down. Good. 3 more. 2, 1 last one. And rest the leg, rest the hips down. We're going to stretch out the glutes down at the end. So we're actually going to come back to that original position on the hands and knees to stretch the glutes this time. We're going to bring the right knee up and across the body. This time, I want the heel down nice and low. And then just drop your weight straight down onto the mat. So, we're using the body weight this time to stretch the glutes. This is where we bring the knee towards the opposite shoulder. It's the exact same movement, but this time to control our pelvis a little bit better, we've got the body weight pushing down so we can get a better stretch into it. So what I want you to be aware of is the only thing about dropping your body straight down towards the mat. Don't let the right hip fall down like this. You want it directly over you. So you're just dropping straight down without having that twist in the pelvis, and you feel a really good stretch into the outside of the right hip. If you're feeling on the inside of the right hip, along the crease, bring the knee up a little bit higher. If you want more of a stretch, crawl your shoulders up higher, like this, and drop down. But you might feel more of a stretch into, or you might feel more of a pinch into the crease in the hip, which means you're just stretching the joint, or actually compressing the joint. So we want to get as much of this onto the glutes, because we've really worked this glute med a lot. So we want to get as much of it onto the glute med as we possibly can. Great. We'll come back out of that stretch, and we're going to go to the opposite side. So, left knee across the body, towards the right shoulder. Bring the forearms down onto the mat, and drop the pelvis straight down. So what you want is your pelvis is level left to right. You don't let that left side sink down, you won't get a stretch. And then have that left knee, coming across towards the right shoulder. And don't get a pinch on the inside of the hip. So if you're feeling the inside of the hip pinching, sit back a little bit more, bring the left knee closer towards your shoulder. If you don't feel a stretch and there's no pinch on the inside of the hip, bring yourself forward a little bit more and drop the pelvis down to the mat. Good. And then come back towards the middle, and we'll finish with that for today's class. So, a little bit harder on the hips, a little bit more work, a good stretch at the end to loosen up. We're going to make things harder next week. So, need the roller, or if you have a football, even better. See you next week. Bye bye.